Hey Sarnia, thanks for watching. My name's Katie Horvath. This is called Into the City. I'm here today with Ian Hope. Ian is running in the upcoming municipal election, looking for a seat as your next city and county councillor candidate. Ian, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure being here, Katie.
All right, great. So for those of us who have not yet had a chance to kind of get to know you, I'm wondering if you could tell us all a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run this year.
A little bit about myself. I'm a long-term resident. I was born here. I've also moved here about 5 or 6 times, so I must like the place. I've lived elsewhere, but I've always come back. This is definitely home. I'm an engineer. I've spent most of my time working in various plants in various locations. I worked as a business analyst and an environmental engineer and so on, but I finally discovered project management, and that's what it turned out I was made for. So I had a really good career, spending other people's money, as my wife says. That's the job that she wanted.
Yeah.
But it did build in my strengths. I learned how to prioritize. I learned how to do a lot of things which I think are going to come in really handy in trying to serve the people of Sarnia, my hometown on council.
Yeah.
I've been married for 31 years, married to a very stubborn woman. She's still hanging in there. And why am I running? This is home, and we should all take care of our home.
Great. So you said you're a project manager. What kind of projects are you managing in your career?
They were mostly petrochemical.
Okay.
It's everything from small things, just getting vessels welded, to large-scale projects. Here locally, Suncor, for example, put in one world-scale project. They were the first in the world to successfully implement it. The French had tried, the Swedes tried, or the Norwegians couldn't do it. We did.
Wow, that's great.
There's good people in Sarnia.
Yeah. Awesome. And what is it about you that you believe would make you a good representative for the people of Sarnia?
I think partly by temperament and partly by training, I'm able to look at issues and understand how reality impacts on them. I think I can make logical decisions. I think I can glean information from other people. I think I can really cut to what are the issues. I'm looking forward to doing that.
Okay, great. So at this point in the interview, I like to get people's kind of general reflections on the current council. So we'll start with, again, just in general. What are some things you felt the current council did well? What are some things you felt maybe could have been improved upon?
First off, what they did well, yeah, there are a few things. I have to summarize by saying I think the last council has been a total failure, but there have been some things. They have shown support for the outsized load corridor. They've shown support for the bioindustry growth that we're trying to foster. There has been some development happen under their term. I don't know whether it was really fostered under this council or whether they inherited it. We did manage to wrap up Centennial Park. I'm sure that'll be a separate question, but that was wrapped up under this watch.
And you said there were some failings. Could you maybe give an example or two of what you're specifically referring to?
I think there have been some things. The biggest issues that everybody talks about all the time are, of course, Centennial Park, culminating in the boat ramp, and of course the difficult relationships at City Hall. I think those are both handled very badly. I would like to see a full investigation of the Centennial Park issue, just so that we make sure that we never, ever, ever have to go through that again. As far as the issues at City Hall, I guess this election will probably largely address them one way or the other. Somebody's going to win.
Okay. So in terms of public input, we've had the beginning of the SMART surveys have been implemented at City Hall. There's been some public input sessions on a number of issues, the dog parks, Baxter Park building there. What are your thoughts on public input? Do you think that the way that it is going right now is satisfactory, or do you think that there could be some improvements there?
I'll say that that's something that council or staff, more specifically, have tried to do well. I think in many cases they have actually been interested in getting input. I don't think they've done a very good job of it. When I think of the Baxter Park, I think of the bike lanes. For example, recently I don't think the public input sessions were particularly well handled. But I do give full kudos to staff. They did show up. They were willing to get yelled at. They took their lumps, knowing that in some cases they were going into a pretty disappointed audience.
Right.
So it's something that we have to work on. We also have to make it a lot easier for people to think that it's worthwhile for them to participate. People have to feel that they're more involved.
That's a good point. There's a lot of apathy at the municipal level.
There is. There are a lot of people who want to complain without actually getting down and showing up at the meeting in person.
Right, yeah.
Also things like the councillors having an office at City Hall with regular hours was a good initiative. I'd like to see more people taking advantage of that.
Yeah, I agree. So this will be the last question about the current council, and then we'll get right into your specific ideas for your platform. So I've been asking a lot of people their opinion about this, just because I know that it is the way of the future. A lot of people are quite happy that we have this option, switching to e-voting, but on the flip side of that, there's people who feel maybe disenfranchised was the word that I've been hearing thrown around a lot about some of the older demographic in Sarnia, which obviously we do have a larger population of older folks. So what were your thoughts about that? Can you comment on how you would have handled those concerns from the public about the removal of paper ballots?
I'm not sure how strongly I support or how enthusiastic I am about electronic voting, but it's coming. There's no doubt about that. Most of the surrounding area, for example, has at least some electronic voting this election, so it's definitely the wave of the future. I think most of us agree, however, that the rollout is not particularly good. Telling people that there was a question raised in 2014 which didn't get much interest doesn't really serve as an excuse for why people weren't consulted this time. As Mayor Bradley said on your website, it's rather ironic that people were consulted on tree bylaws and a dog park, but not on democracy. So the rollout was not good. I personally wish that we had been able to keep paper ballots, at least for part of the process, maybe for the advanced polls. The city clerk says that that was not possible. I've spoken to the president of IntelliVote, the company that's running it, who tells me that they already do it in numerous locations. So I think we did have a mixed opportunity. We missed that one.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So we'll move right into the most important issues that you are trying to bring to the table and what you're kind of campaigning on. So could you just tell me in general about your platform?
I think we do have some opportunities. I think we have a lot of strengths in Sarnia. We have good people, we have good geography, we have good climate. And there are some things that we're doing well. People, for example, talk about the downtown as though it were still a problem. It's not perfect by any means, but one of the times I moved here was in 1971, and as a kid I decided to walk downtown and see Sarnia. I walked clear through Sarnia and got all the way to Sam Lample's scrapyard in the south end and hadn't realized I'd missed downtown. So downtown is far better than it used to be. That's something that we have to continue pushing. One of the things that we have to push there, for example, is parking. We have the happy problem of having a parking problem in downtown Sarnia. 10 years ago, nobody would have thought that would be an issue. So that's good. Our demographics are a little bit of a problem. We do have more youth in Sarnia than the county as a whole, but we do need more population. Our population is shrinking and is forecast to shrink for the next forecast period of 16 or 18 years. One of the initiatives I would personally like to see is I would like to see us increase the amount of attention that we give to bringing in seniors. And I know everybody always wants to bring in youth, that's great, but I think if we could manage to get some of the people that are being drawn to Elliott Lake and try to divert them to Sarnia, where we have a better climate, better geography, better living conditions, maybe some of those people in Toronto could convert their equity into a little bit of disposable income for this area. So I'd like to see a drive there. I'd like to see us really push things like the bio industry and the heavy load corridor. There are a number of initiatives that I'd like to see us do. I would like to see us modify the code of conduct that the last city council brought in, so that we can have more difference of opinion with respect, but at least have it. Right now, the councillors are pretty stifled as to what they're, as to either what they can say legally or what they believe they can say. That's not right. Free debate, respectfully done, should be a cornerstone of what we do. I would like to see our ethics commissioner replaced. We need one. I think we've demonstrated we need one. The opportunity of sharing an ethics commissioner with the county and perhaps a different person, I think would be a good idea. My personal feeling is that our existing gentleman has pretty much lost his credibility. I think when he made a statement that prejudged the next complaint, which hadn't even happened yet and was already talking about what the penalties were going to be, was not really fair.
Could you elaborate on that just in case somebody watching may have missed that?
Yes, after the last penalty that the mayor received, and I can certainly understand that people were disgusted by the conduct, but after that last penalty, our commissioner warned in public, the mayor, in the media, that the next complaint would bring an even larger penalty recommendation. Not the next well-founded complaint, the next justified complaint. There wasn't even a complaint made, but he was already saying what his actions are going to be. I don't think that's right. So while I like the idea of having an ethics commissioner, that should be part of our modern democracy, I'm not sure that that gentleman should have his contract renewed.
Okay, fair points. So you did mention attracting more, a lot of people say the youth, but you had mentioned attracting maybe some of the older demographic. Do you have any ideas, or I guess to elaborate further on how we could make that happen? And in addition to that, how we can also attract those businesses that you had mentioned into our city?
As far as the getting the seniors that I specifically target, and I know that's a little unorthodox. The reason I'm trying to do that is because I think they don't require as much in the way of facilities. We already have a pretty good hospital set up now, which we didn't have years ago. That was always a stumbling block. These people are not as demanding on policing and schools and the infrastructure. And they do tend, in some cases, to have some disposable income, which I like, and they tend to go to restaurants and so on. So I believe that they would be a good addition to our city. Younger people need jobs. We definitely need jobs. It would be great to have a home run. It would be great to have Dow Chemical come back to town. It's not going to happen. Things like the Nova expansion are fantastic, but it's not a lot of permanent long-term jobs. So we're doing a very good job of supporting the bioindustrial park. That's been excellent. We have to put some more work into Sarnia's industrial park and push that one a little bit harder. And I think we have to put even more focus than we do right now on smaller companies, because smaller companies tend, and I know this from my engineering work and my project work, smaller companies tend to hire more people per dollar of investment. So if you bring in a $2 billion investment, you get 150 jobs out of it. Yeah. You can put in a much, 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 much smaller plant and get dozens of employees. The ethanol plant down in Moore Township, for example, well, let's see, phase 1 was pushing 100 people and it's now doubled. So you get a lot more bang for your buck. And I think that's where we probably have to put some emphasis.
Okay. So let's say you were elected. What could we expect from you and how you handle, let's say I had a question for you as a citizen, what could we expect in your role and how you interact with the taxpayers? I
am surprised a little bit that there's not more clamor from the electorate towards their politicians. I guess maybe it's just me and my temperament. I tend to go down to City Hall and complain to my representatives every once in a while, and I'm sort of surprised that other people don't do the same thing. I think things like your website are fantastic. Things like regular hours at City Hall are fantastic. I think it would be interesting to have other aldermen publish something in a newspaper along the lines of what the mayor does. Not all the time, but maybe take turns. You know, so once every 8 months, it would be your turn to publish an article. I think we have to get the message out so that people start to feel more involved in what's going on. They'll care a little bit more. Right now, we're going to a new initiative to try to get more people to vote. 33% is not a lot of people. Perhaps our biggest problem isn't how difficult it is to vote. It's that people don't really care all that much or don't feel all that involved, and they should. Local government is spending a fair bit of their tax money. If they're not going to do it for any other reason, do it to protect their pocketbook.
Okay. So we've got a crisis in our city with addiction and mental health. This is obviously traditionally funded provincially, but on that same token, still causes issues locally. Do you have any thoughts on what we could do as a city to address that crisis? And maybe if you could just comment in general on what you think about that issue.
That's an important but an uncomfortable issue, okay? No surprise. I'm an old white guy. You can guess how I have traditionally felt about drug addiction, you know? The old ways aren't working, you know? W.C. Fields said, there comes a time in the affairs of men when you have to grab the bull by the tail and face up to the situation. We have to grab the bull by the tail. We have an addiction problem. And the traditional ways of treating it by treating people as criminals is not working. So the new facilities that are now coming online in Sarnia, the new treatment facilities, the kits that we're bringing out, and so on, we have to support these 100%. This problem is not going away, it's getting worse. We've spent decades finding out how not to handle the problem. We need to put local resources into this. And I know there's a provincial responsibility. I know the feds are involved. I know that we're talking about marijuana and so on, and it's being rammed down our throats according to some people, or it's coming along too slowly according to other people, but it's not in our control either way. It doesn't matter. We have a local problem, and we have to address it locally.
Okay. So it's something that I ask everybody, lots of candidates running. Why should I vote for you?
Part of the reason that I'm running is because I am interested in what's going on in this city. As I said, it's my home and I want to take care of it. I have never had anywhere on my bucket list that I want to be a politician. I'm frankly uncomfortable with the idea right now. So it's not a lifelong dream to be a councillor. I'm running because, frankly, I looked at some of the other candidates and I looked at what happened in our last council and I thought I could do a better job. I think I can do a better job of prioritizing, of identifying issues, and of addressing them. I think I understand more about business and how to read books. I think I understand that you can't spend the same dollar twice. I think I understand that if you have a large number of opportunities and limited resources, which describes the world, every time you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to 4 or 5 others. I get that. So I think I'm able to make the sorts of decisions that we need to try to progress this city and to try to work with resources that are not only limited now, but are going to be limited for the foreseeable future. We're in a tight budget situation. We're going to be for a long time. Our infrastructure problems, for example, are uncomfortable.
Yes, there's a big backlog, very big backlog. Okay, so that's basically all the questions that I have for you today. But I do want to give you the opportunity, if there's anything else that you would like to talk about that we may not have covered in this interview. It's just kind of your opportunity for your final message for anyone that's watching and the people of Sarnia.
if you care what's happening to this city now and over the next 10 or 15 years, if you care about what's happening to your taxes, get out and vote. The best thing you can do is vote for me, but the second best thing you can do is just vote. Thank you.
All right. I definitely agree with Ian. Get out there and vote. So if you like what Ian has to say, you can vote from online. The polls are opening October 11th through to October 22nd, the election day. Thank you everybody very much for watching. Again, this is Ian Hope, looking to be your next city and county councillor candidate. Thanks for watching.